Hello and welcome to week 1 of AC1520 Managerial Accounting and Decision Making. My name is Bob Steele. I'll be your instructor. My contact information is here, but before we go any further into that, let's take a look at what we need to do first. And of course, what we need to do first is log into Mcgraw Hills Connect. This is the first thing. We want to make sure that it's connected and everything's up and running as soon as possible. And if there's any questions on that, then let me know. And in order to do that, if you've done this before, then of course you already have an account. It should be pretty easy to get back in there. We have this video down here that we can watch that could help with that process as well. So scrolling back up to the contact information, we have the email address. Probably the best thing to use to contact me would be the email address, but we also have the phone number here. We have office hours on Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. These are not required, but if you choose to go there and ask questions at that time, it will be in a question and answer format. So I'll be ready to ask some questions at that time. It is a different number. It's a conference call-in number. It has a conference call-in code. So if we need to use screen share software, we can then go into the room here and use some screen share software as needed to work through some problems together and whatnot. You can use screen share software with each other as well. So if you go into the participants up top over here and send a Moodle message to each other and share contact information, you could use software like Skype or Join.me or some other types of software. There's some free softwares out there if you wanted to have a meeting amongst yourselves. That is something that would be worth looking into, I believe. Going back to Moodle Room. Alright, so then the next thing to do is take a look at the course overview if you haven't done that already, and that'll go over some of the basics of the course. I'm going to scroll down to the first week that we are in. So we have a familiar layout. We got the objectives, we have the topics, we have the lessons, and of course we are going to be covering chapters, in this case, chapter 18 and chapter 21. We also have some instructional videos which will link to a website. If these links are not opening up as fast as you would like, or if you would like to go to these videos on a cell phone or something like that, you might want to use the YouTube page. So that's going to be up here. I find it works a little bit better. So if you go into this link here or search the page and go down to Charter College down here, and we are currently in BA or AC1520, and then you could scroll down to the relevant video in that format as well. So if you just want to go through them right in a row, that might be the fastest way to do it at this point. Going to go back to Moodle Room, scrolling down to week 1. Then we have all the information that we got to do for the course, meaning discussions, assignments, homework, quizzes, all the information we want to check off as we go. Remember that Moodle Rooms is the place where we have it all listed out, as opposed to Connect, which is up here, which is where most of the work is. However, not all of the work will be listed there. For example, in this case, the discussion forum will not be listed there, but it's good practice to make sure to look at the Moodle Room shell in order to check everything off, rather than going straight to Connect and not checking to the Moodle Rooms, because you could miss some things sometimes. So it's a good practice to do that. Now, before we get into that, just want to go over the syllabi a bit and go over how I would approach the point totals. So we have the instructor information here. We got the course description. I'll let you take a look at that. There is a prerequisite of AC 1110. So if you haven't taken AC 1110, or if you may not have passed it, if you took it last mod and you believe you might not have passed it, then make sure to double check that, because you might end up having to take that class again, and the registrar might try to reset that class. So you want to get I don't want anybody to lose a week or half a week while that process happens. So you want to be proactive on that. If you didn't pass AC 1110, double check on that. I'll let you look at the learning objectives. The instructional materials, we will be using Mcgraw Hills Connect, so make sure we have Mcgraw Hills Connect up and running first thing. That's the first thing we want to do. And then we have the resources I'll let you take a look at. Topics I'll let you take a look at. Point totals, this is how I would approach every class, and that would be that we want to get 100% of the 21% of the discussion forums. So do your best to get 100% of those full credit on that. And then do your best to get the assignment full credit and the homework full credit. This is because you have the most control over these. Now, I know the homework and the assignment, there's going to be a lot of them, but we should have some resources for a lot of them as well to at least pick up a lot of points. So even if the problem is long, let's try to go in there and pick up as many points as possible, and hopefully we will have the resources to help to do that, to pick up a lot of points as possible. And then you want to go into the quiz, which is big point cushion total as possible. So the quizzes, the midterm, and the final all worth 33% combined. So you want to go into that with as much point total cushion as you can. Going back to Moodle Rooms over here, and Then we have the discussion. So let's go down through these one by one. The discussion, we have our directions. We can distill the directions down to basically we need at least 4 posts. So remember, you want to post generally more than 4 posts, but we want a minimum of 4 posts. The reason is because the grades are accumulating upwards. So to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we have some rules on who you're going to post to here, but to me, really, you can post to the first post, you can post to the other questions, you can post to other students. They all accumulate points upwards until you get to full credit. And in order to get full credit, if you reference anything from like Google or something like that, just make sure to reference it, and then I would put something to describe it in your own words underneath it as well. And that'll make sure that you get kind of the full credit on those types of posts. I'm going to add a lot more information, of course, as we go, and the purpose of that is to make sure that there's enough information for everybody to get full credit on the discussion forums. So then we have the assignments and the quizzes. So the Connect, these will all be in Connect. So we got Connect for assignments, a Connect for homework, and Connect for the quiz. So even though that is the case, I would still go in here and check them off as you do them in Connect. Use this sheet as your checklist just in case in some other class or in some other week some assignment is snuck into the Moodle Room side and not in the Connect side. You want to make sure you're picking those up. So I'm going to go over to Connect and take a look at it. Week 1, we have our Learnsmarts. So we got chapter 18 and chapter 21 on the Learnsmarts. So go through there, make sure there's only going to be 20 to 25 questions in it, 25 to 30 questions in it. If there are any more than that, it's probably the case that you have completed it and you've gone back in there. So just make sure that it's good to practice the Learnsmarts after you're done for the quiz, but just make sure that you know when you have completed it. So when you've completed it, you could go back in there and it may say that you have more questions to do, but those are just practice. So just keep that in mind as you go forward. Then the 2 assignments are on chapter 18. I didn't give any other resources on these because chapter 18 is kind of like an introduction to the managerial accounting. So we're not going to be using a lot of spreadsheets or anything. So even though these are usually like workbook problems, they shouldn't be too bad on the first week here. And then of course we have the quiz. Make sure to do the quiz by Sunday. Generally cannot make up the quiz unless there's an unusual circumstance, unlike the assignments for the most part. Therefore, make sure to do the quiz by Sunday. It's multiple choice. Pick up as many points as you can on it. We're going to go back to Moodle Rooms over here, and we're going to scroll up to the Gradebook and take a look at the Gradebook real quick. That's going to be on the left-hand side. We should be reviewing this from time to time. So we'll note that a lot of the grades will be in Connect, of course, but I have the final Gradebook will be Moodle Rooms, and the grades will be input through the week, but as of Sunday, that's when the week closes, I have until Tuesday then to take those grades and put them into the Gradebook here. So as of Tuesday evening, you want to go into the Gradebook here and make sure that everything has been updated as you know it should be. So the way I see that we should be doing this is that you want to do everything, most of the work being in Mcgraw Hill, and verify that you have completed everything by checking it off to Moodle Rooms, and then you know exactly what the Gradebook should basically look like. You know which assignments should be populated. You should have an idea of that in your head as you go in there on Tuesday, and then double check that what you are envisioning has then been appeared here, meaning the discussion forum, this dash will turn into a grade, hopefully 100%, because everybody shoot for 100% on that. And then the quizzes down here will then populate, as well as the assignments for week 1 and the homeworks for week 1. Now, if you miss anything in any of these categories, it's going to look really bad on the first week, because note that that's the only assignment in the entire category. So, for example, the assignment grade here was worth 33%, I think it was. And if you don't do any of it, then you got a 0 on an entire 33%. But we know that, of course, it's going to really be an average of the 33%, an average of these times the 33% will be the impact on your total grade, which will be down here. So keep that in mind. If you get a 0 in anything, it's weighted a lot more heavily in the first weeks than in the later weeks, because we don't have as many assignments in there. And that works the other way as well. If we got all hundreds on all the assignments, we look a lot better than we're eventually going to look, because we have a lot more assignments to go to average out into that. So keep that in mind as we go, and that's going to be it for week 1. So have a great week 1.